You think if she loved you, you would just know it. You think love announces itself like a headline, loud and obvious and impossible to miss. But what if the love was already there, and you were too busy chasing the performance of it to recognize the real thing? That is the conversation we are having today, not the comfortable version, not the version that tells you what you want to hear, the version that tells you what you need to hear so you can stop making the same mistakes, stop misreading the same signals, and stop walking away from something genuine because nobody taught you what genuine actually looks like. Because here is the truth that most men never get told. Women do not love the way you were trained by movies and music and social media to expect. And when real love shows up at your door, wearing practical clothes and no dramatic soundtrack, a lot of men open the door, look right past it, and spend the rest of their lives waiting for something that was already standing in front of them. That is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to fix. If you are someone who wants to stop confusing performance for presence, fantasy for reality, and anxiety for love, then stay with me through this entire video. And if this kind of unapologetic straight-line thinking is what you need more of in your life, go ahead and subscribe right now. Not for me, for you. Because the algorithm will bury this content and you will forget to come back, and next week you will be sitting in the same confusion, wondering why nobody ever explained this to you clearly. Subscribe so the truth finds you again when you need it most. Now let us get into it. Here is the thesis. Here is what this entire video is built on. When a woman genuinely loves you, her behavior will feel less like fireworks and more like architecture, less like a storm and more like shelter. The signs of her real love are not always dramatic. They are often quiet. They are often practical. They are often so understated that a man who has been conditioned to chase intensity will walk right past them without registering what they mean. And that misstep, that chronic inability to read real love versus performed interest, costs men their best relationships, their peace of mind, and sometimes their entire understanding of what they deserve. So here are the 7 things women do when they genuinely love you. Not when they are infatuated. Not when they are playing a role. Not when they are managing you or manipulating you or keeping you warm until something better comes along. When they genuinely, deeply, structurally love you. Pay attention. Because some of what I am about to say will feel counterintuitive. Some of it will challenge assumptions you have held for years. And some of it will make you realize that love was already in your hands, and you let it go because you did not recognize its weight. Number 1. She remembers what matters to you without being reminded. Here is the misconception. Men are taught to look for grand gestures. The surprise, the announcement, the public declaration, the birthday that got treated like a production. And when those things happen, they feel like proof of love. When those things do not happen, men feel unseen, unloved, forgotten. That is the frame most men are operating from. Here is the hard truth. Grand gestures are easy. Memory is not. Anyone can pull off a dramatic moment with enough motivation and enough time to prepare. But the small things, the things you said in passing, the things you mentioned once and never repeated, those require a level of attention that cannot be faked over a long period of time. A woman who is performing interest in you will get the big dates right. A woman who genuinely loves you will remember that you cannot stand cilantro, that your father's birthday puts you in a mood you never fully explain, that you had a presentation on Tuesday and she checks in that afternoon without being asked. Why does this happen? Because attention follows investment. When a woman is truly invested in you, her mind automatically catalogs what matters to you. It is not a conscious effort. It is the natural result of genuinely caring about another person's inner world. She is not taking notes. She is just paying attention, and paying attention consistently, without prompt, without reward, is one of the most intimate things one human being can do for another. What does it cost you when you miss this? You go looking for love in spectacle. You measure affection by volume and performance. You end up chasing women who are loud about their feelings, but careless about your details, and you call that love, and you wonder why it always feels hollow 6 months in. The reframe is this. Stop measuring love in decibels. Start measuring it in details. The woman who genuinely loves you is paying attention when you are not performing. That is where the truth lives. Number 2. She is honest with you even when honesty is uncomfortable. The misconception here is something almost every man has internalized without realizing it. You equate love with agreement. You have been trained, consciously or not, to feel loved when she validates you, co-signs your ideas, tells you that you are right, laughs at your jokes, never pushes back. And when a woman challenges you, disagrees with you, or points out something you would rather not look at, it feels like a form of rejection or disrespect. You pull back. You get defensive. You tell yourself that a woman who loved you would be more supportive. Here is the hard truth. A woman who only ever agrees with you does not love you. She is either afraid of you, performing for you, or indifferent to your actual growth. None of those things are love. Love requires a level of honesty that friendship often demands and romance often suppresses. And the fact that our culture has normalized the idea of a supportive partner as one who never contradicts you has cost men access to one of the most valuable things a real relationship can offer: honest reflection. Why does this happen? Because real love involves your actual well-being, not just your comfort. When a woman genuinely loves you, she has a stake in who you are becoming, not just in who you feel like today. She is not willing to watch you make a destructive choice and keep her mouth shut to avoid conflict. She says the hard thing because she believes in your capacity to handle it. She respects your intelligence enough to tell you the truth. That is called investment. That is the opposite of indifference. What does it cost you when you miss this? You surround yourself with validation. You build a bubble of agreement. You stop growing because no one in your life is willing to name the patterns that are holding you back. And eventually you look around and realize that everyone around you has been agreeing with you straight into stagnation. The reframe. A woman who tells you the truth when it would be easier to stay quiet is one of the rarest and most valuable people you will ever encounter. Stop punishing her for that. Start recognizing it for what it is. That is loyalty in its most functional form. Number 3. She gives you space without making you feel guilty for needing it. The misconception is that love means constant presence, constant connection, constant contact. You think a woman who loves you wants to be around you all the time, wants to talk every night, wants to fill every hour of silence with conversation. And when she gives you space, when she does not text back immediately, when she makes her own plans without consulting you, the insecurity creeps in. You think maybe she is pulling away, maybe she is losing interest, maybe you need to do more to keep her attention. Here is the hard truth. That anxiety you are feeling is not evidence of love. It is evidence of a codependency pattern that has been mislabeled as passion. And a woman who feeds that anxiety, who keeps you constantly reaching, constantly wondering, constantly performing to hold her attention, she is not loving you. She is managing you. Those are fundamentally different things. A woman who genuinely loves you understands that you have a life, a purpose, a need for solitude and reflection. She does not threaten you with silence. She does not manufacture distance to provoke anxiety. She gives you space because she trusts you, and because she has her own full life to return to. She does not need you to be her constant entertainment. She wants you to be your best self, and she knows your best self requires room to breathe. Why does this happen? Because a secure woman with a genuine sense of self does not need your constant attention to feel okay. She is not chasing validation through access to you. She loves you, and she wants the version of you that has been allowed to think, to breathe, to come back when you are present, rather than performing. What does it cost you when you miss this? You mistake anxiety for chemistry. You fall for the push-pull dynamic. You call the constant reaching and retreating passion, and you walk away from stable women because they do not make you feel that familiar low-level panic that you have mislabeled as being in love. And then you wonder why every relationship eventually exhausts you. The reframe. Real love is not a chase. Real love creates a field where you can both be whole, individually and together. Space in a healthy relationship is not a warning sign. It is a structural feature. It is proof that she trusts you and trusts herself. Number 4. She shows up in your low moments without making it about her. The misconception. Men are taught to believe that love is most visible in the highlights. She celebrates your wins. She is proud of you when you succeed. She shows up to the moments that look good, and that is one form of presence, but it is not the deepest form. Here is the hard truth. Anyone can love a man who is winning. Anyone can be enthusiastic about a success, a celebration, a moment where you look good and feel good and have something to offer. The real question, the one that tells you everything you need to know about the nature of her love, is what she does when you are failing, when you are confused, when you are scared, when you are not performing, when you are quiet and withdrawn and not sure of your next move. What does she do then? Because that is when most people disappear. That is when the women who were there for the performance find somewhere else to be. And that is when the woman who genuinely loves you steps closer. Not to fix you. Not to project her own anxiety onto your struggle and make your difficult moment into a conversation about her feelings. Not to offer unsolicited advice that is really just discomfort wearing the costume of helpfulness. She steps closer to sit with you in it. She lets you be human. She does not need you to perform okay. She just stays. Why does this happen? Because genuine love is not contingent on your performance. She does not love who you are when you are at your best and tolerate the rest. She loves you as a full person, and a full person includes the chapters that are hard to read. What does it cost you when you miss this? You keep your struggles private not because you want to, but because you have been around enough people who met your vulnerability with discomfort or judgment that you learn to hide the hard parts. And then you call that strength, when really it is just a reflex from being let down. And you never get to experience what it feels like to be known, truly known, without that knowledge being used against you. The reframe. The woman who sees your worst and stays is telling you something more important than anything she has ever said aloud. Pay attention to who is there in the low chapters. That is the most accurate measure of love you will ever find. Number 5. She protects your reputation and your dignity even when you are not in the room. Let me tell you what the misconception looks like. You think because someone is loyal to your face, that they are loyal to your character. You assume that the affection she shows in private carries over into how she represents you to others, to her friends, to her family, to the world. You give her access to your vulnerabilities, your failures, your insecurities, and you trust that what you showed her in private stays private. Here is the hard truth. Not everyone who loves you in the light will protect you in the dark. Some women who are genuinely affectionate in private will expose your weaknesses the moment they are behind closed doors with their friends. They will share the things you told them in confidence. They will frame your struggles as evidence of your inadequacy. They will use the intimacy you extended as content for their social life. And you will never know because you were not in the room. A woman who genuinely loves you guards your name with the same care she wants you to extend to hers. She does not perform loyalty. She practices it even when there is no one watching, even when complaining about you would make the conversation easier, even when sharing your private moments would make her look more interesting at the table. Why does this happen with the women who genuinely love you? Because love creates a sense of protection that operates on principle, not on audience. She is not loyal because you are present. She is loyal because you matter to her, and you cannot separate caring for someone from caring for how they are seen and understood in the world. What does it cost you when you miss this? You open yourself up to someone who does not deserve that level of access. You build intimacy with someone who is cataloging your weaknesses. You hand over the things that could hurt you and find out too late that they were not held with care. The reframe. Watch how she speaks about the people she loves when they are not there. Watch how she handles information that was shared in confidence. That behavior is a preview of how she will handle you. And if she is careless with others, she will eventually be careless with you. Number 6. She invests in understanding your world, not just sharing hers. The misconception here is subtle and powerful. Most people, men and women both, enter relationships oriented toward expression rather than understanding. They want to be seen, heard, validated. They want their experience reflected back to them. And in the early stages of attraction, both people are asking, do you understand me? Do you get me? Is there enough resonance here to keep going? That is natural, and it is human. But here is the hard truth. In many relationships, that dynamic never evolves. The relationship becomes two people performing their inner lives at each other, rather than genuinely learning each other. And the telling sign is this. Does she know your world? Does she know what you care about, what drives you, what the stakes are in your ambitions? Does she ask questions about your work, not because she is making conversation, but because she actually wants to understand what it costs you and what it builds? Does she try to learn about the things that matter to you, even when they are outside her natural interests? Because a woman who genuinely loves you will invest in understanding your world. She will ask about the thing you have been building. She will want to know the context behind your decisions. She will not wait for you to bring your life to her. She will reach toward it. She will want to understand who you are inside the things that define you, not just who you are when you are with her. Why does this happen? Because real love is curious. It cannot be satisfied with a surface-level version of the person. It wants to understand the whole person, including the parts that live outside the relationship. A woman who only cares about the version of you that shows up in her presence has limited the relationship to what it can give her. A woman who wants to understand your full life has understood that you are a whole person whose interior world deserves her attention. What does it cost you when you miss this? You end up in relationships where you feel ultimately alone, even while you are technically together. You stop sharing the things that really matter, because you have learned that they do not land. You start to feel like a character in someone else's story, rather than the subject of your own, and you call that intimacy when it is actually loneliness wearing familiar clothes. The reframe. Real love reaches into your world, it asks questions, it learns your language, it wants to understand what it feels like to be you. If she has never made a genuine attempt to understand what drives you, what scares you, what your actual ambitions require of you, that is not indifference toward your interests. That is indifference toward you. Number 7. She is consistent. Not exciting in the way that keeps you guessing. Not intense in the way that creates a cycle of chaos and repair. Consistent. Let me be very clear about what this means and why it is the most important item on this entire list. The misconception is one of the most damaging ideas in modern dating, and it has been fed to men through every romantic narrative they have ever consumed. The misconception is that consistency is boring, that the electric, unpredictable, emotionally volatile relationship is the one worth having, that if things are calm and steady, and you always know where you stand, something must be wrong. You must not be passionate enough. She must not be exciting enough. Real love, you have been told, feels like standing on the edge. Here is the hard truth. That edge is not love. That edge is anxiety. That is a nervous system response that has been mislabeled as passion because the alternative, stability, was never modeled for you as something worth wanting. The relationships that feel most intense are often the most dysfunctional, and the women who keep you in a constant state of uncertainty are not more exciting. They are more destabilizing. Those are different things. You stop trusting yourself. You stop moving forward. You stop building anything that requires a stable foundation, because the ground beneath you is always shifting. A woman who genuinely loves you is consistent. Her behavior today matches her behavior yesterday. Her affection in public matches her affection in private. Her words and her actions align. She is the same person when things are going well and when things are difficult. You do not have to decode her. You do not have to wonder whether the version of her that showed up this morning is the same version that will be here tomorrow. She is just there, steady, real, present. That is called security. And a man who has been chasing intensity his entire life will feel the absence of anxiety as the presence of boredom, and he will destroy something real to go looking for something unstable again, and call it following his feelings. Why does this happen? Because genuine love is not trying to keep you off balance. It does not need to create drama to feel important. A woman who is secure in herself and secure in her love for you does not need to manufacture uncertainty to maintain your attention. She shows up consistently because that is what love in action actually looks like. What does it cost you when you miss this? Everything. Every time. You leave stable women, you go looking for that electric feeling, you find someone who gives it to you. 3 months in, 6 months in, a year in, you are exhausted, confused and lonelier than you have ever been. And the woman you left, the consistent one, the real one, has rebuilt her life and moved forward, and you are still standing in the rubble of a choice that felt like passion, but functioned like self-destruction. The reframe. Consistency is not boring. Consistency is the evidence that love is a decision, not just a feeling. Feelings fluctuate. Decisions made by a person of character hold. A woman who chooses you consistently in the ordinary days and the difficult ones, in the private moments and the public ones, is giving you something that the most dramatic relationship you have ever had could never offer you. She is giving you something real to stand on. Now I want to talk to you about a specific man, because this video is not just about her, it is about you, and the version of you that is capable of receiving and recognizing genuine love. There is a man who does not need chaos to feel alive. He has done the work to understand the difference between anxiety and passion, between intensity and intimacy, between a woman who destabilizes him and a woman who genuinely sees him. He is not operating from scarcity. He is not measuring his worth by how many women want him, He does not chase validation because he is not running from himself. This man has standards that come not from pride but from self-knowledge. He knows what he needs, what he will accept, and what he will not tolerate. Not because someone told him to have standards, but because he has lived long enough in situations that did not serve him to understand the cost of abandoning them. He has walked away from things that looked good but felt wrong. He has stayed in things that felt uncomfortable because they were asking him to grow rather than shrink. He moves through the world with a sense of purpose that is entirely his own. He is not waiting for a woman to complete him, or activate him, or give him something to pursue. He already has things to pursue. She is not his mission. She is someone he chooses to bring alongside his mission because she adds to what he is building, not because she gives him a reason to get out of bed. He recognizes consistency. He values honesty. He can receive space without spiraling. He can be vulnerable without losing himself. When a woman shows up with real love, quiet and architectural and steady, he sees it. He names it. He protects it. Not because he is afraid of losing it, but because he understands its value. That man is not a fantasy. That man is a choice. It is the choice to stop feeding the patterns that cost you, to stop mistaking performance for substance, to stop measuring love by its noise, and start measuring it by its behavior. You can become that man, but you will have to be willing to challenge every assumption about love that you have accumulated, and you will have to be willing to feel the discomfort of choosing stability when everything in you has been trained to chase the storm. Here is what you do right now. Starting today, you stop rewarding drama with attention. Every time a woman creates unnecessary chaos, every time the uncertainty is manufactured, every time the silence is weaponized, you stop feeding it. You name it internally, you note what it costs you, and you redirect your attention toward the things you are building. You start paying attention to the quiet signals, the remembering, the honesty, the showing up in the low moments, the protection of your name, the consistency. You stop discounting those signals because they lack drama. You start treating them as the evidence they are. You ask yourself the real question, not how does this feel right now, but what does her behavior tell me about who she is over time? Feelings are momentary. Patterns are the truth. Trust the patterns. You stop confusing anxiety with connection. If you feel the need to constantly check your phone, constantly perform, constantly wonder where you stand, that is not love calling you forward. That is insecurity keeping you in place. Real love allows you to breathe, find the breath, follow it, and you do the work on yourself that makes you capable of receiving what you say you want. Because here is the part no one ever tells you. Real love will feel unfamiliar to a man who has only ever experienced its counterfeit. It will not hit you the way you expect. It will not arrive in the form you have rehearsed. It will arrive quietly and practically and consistently. And if you are not ready to recognize it, you will call it dull and walk away, and spend years looking for something that was already in your hands. Do not do that to yourself. You have done it enough times. It is time to see clearly. Here is the real conclusion. You are not broken because you missed these signs before. You were not taught to look for them. The whole world was telling you to look somewhere else. Toward the heat, toward the drama, toward the woman who made your chest tight with uncertainty. And you followed that instruction, because that is what you were given. That is not weakness. That is conditioning. But conditioning can be broken. Patterns can be interrupted. The man you are choosing to become, the man who can read real love, who can receive it, who can offer the kind of presence that worthy love responds to, that man is not some distant destination. He is what remains when you stop performing and start being honest with yourself. You are the answer to the question you keep asking. Not the next woman. Not the next relationship. Not some future version of yourself that finally figures it out. You, right now, deciding to see more clearly, to want better, to hold yourself to a standard that makes you someone real. Love can land on, that is the work. And it starts today. If this hit something in you, if it clarified something you have been trying to name for a while, subscribe right now, not as a favor, as an investment in yourself, because this channel exists to give you the kind of direct, honest conversation that most people in your life are too comfortable or too afraid to have with you. Every video is built on the same commitment. No comfort over truth. No performance over substance. No noise over clarity. You are not alone in this. There are men in this community who are doing the exact same work, asking the same hard questions, choosing to see clearly even when it is uncomfortable. You belong here. Come back when you need it, and stay ready, because the next conversation is already coming.